Hello, I'm Rick Steiner. Welcome to Luxe Life Discovered. My guest today is Bobby Wagner, the Mayor of Destin. So thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, at the Alice, when I met you at the bridal fair,
hmm
I
I'm not a bride.
no, you're right, a recent groom though, yeah.
Correct.
But Kristen had been telling me that how young you were,
Yeah.
and so there was a guy. My area was out on the back deck, and there
hmm
was this guy that came out who was a younger guy,
hmm
and to me, anybody's younger. So everybody acted like they knew him, and I thought, well, that must be the mayor. So we go back in later, and I'm talking to Chris. I'm like, so is this the mayor? She's like, no. I said, well, he looks young. She goes, no, that's him over there. I'm like, guy, he is young. So yeah. So how was that been being the mayor? Are you the youngest mayor ever of Destin?
In Destin, yes, and I was one of the youngest in Florida. Now there's an 18-year-old mayor down in South Florida.
Oh,
Good for him. I like, yeah,
that's great.
Diesel. Shout out to Diesel. So yeah, no, it's not a competition. The more youth, the better.
Yeah,
But I was definitely not ready at 18, so kudos to him. But yeah, as
right.
far as Destin, I was the youngest mayor. The
Okay.
one before that was Craig Barker, and he's a big mentor of mine. So
All right.
I sought out all the living mayors of Destin to make sure I knew I was getting into. So everyone before me has not only paved the path, but has actually helped me personally as well. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So were you still ready as you thought you were?
It's one of those things I don't think anyone can be ready. The only thing you need to know, and I encourage everyone who has a heart of service to jump in, and that's really all you need is a good reason and a good why. And for me, it was giving back to the community that's given me so much. Um, the chamber, the local business community. I started my business when I was 19. By 21, I jumped fully in, left college, left scholarships
Oh
behind,
wow.
and jumped in. And so this community has really built me of what I know about servant leadership, what I know about small business community, and really just that philosophy of givers gain.
Yeah.
And so I have gained so much knowledge and wisdom and even just business relationships that it's time for me to give back. And this was my way of doing so.
Well, that's great. So how long have you been mayor?
I am rounding out the end of my first term of 4 years.
Okay.
So this November, I'll be running for
So I
reelection
was going
for
to ask.
Mayor of
Okay.
Destin.
All right.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. So what gave you the when did you decide I want to run for mayor? How did that come
Yeah.
about? Because you were how old are you right now?
I am now 32.
32. Okay.
Washed
All
up
right.
32-year-old now.
No.
28 sounded pretty good on a magazine of newly
We'll
elected.
go with 28.
Yeah,
Yeah.
28 is when I won. Now I'm going to be up for re-election at 32. Couple things. Land ARC Production was the company that I founded that was really about giving back to the area as far as video production content, drone services. And that's really when I became a fly on the wall at all these nonprofit events, all these fundraisers, the nonprofit side of things, even for-profit businesses. But I think being the event videographer at some of these events that were raising 40,000 a night, a couple 100,000 in a night, from
Right.
Destin Charity Wine Auction all the way down to just a small local community, really just seeing how giving this community was. I didn't have that kind of wallet capacity, but I had that kind
Right.
of time to volunteer and give back. And so that led to me joining Trees on the Coast, which is all about conservation with education, K through 12, just planting trees. Very simple. I went from board member to executive director once the founder, Alan, ended up having a grandbaby. He moved back to Atlanta. And so instead of allowing the nonprofit to close up shop, I volunteered. By looking backwards, I have a theme of volunteering for things I have no business being in. And so this was one of the first of taking a big step as an executive director for a nonprofit, really getting into what that means above and beyond a small business mindset. But really, how that got me into business or into government was me as the executive director. I needed to go to the school boards and the city boards asking for permission to plant free trees on their land. It was always a yes, but in waiting for my turn in the agenda, I'm realizing, especially for local businesses, just how much their votes impact your local land, your local wallet, and just your local way of life. And so, me just trying to give back and be as much of an impact as possible to my community, I realized that local government is not what you see on TV. Fox News, CNN, News Nation, all of those, all that federal stuff is really a facade and
Yeah.
quite, in my opinion, a distraction. When everyone who gets fired up about those issues should at least, at the very minimum, be fired up, if not more fired up, about the local issues, because that's truly what affects your house, your land, and your wallet at the end of the day. And so I had this crazy idea of, in Destin at least, there's 7 councilmen, the voting body. And if I could be one of those 7, that means we only needed 3 other elected officials to do the right thing and vote the right way for not just the economics of Destin, but truly what I felt was getting underrepresented, which is the locals of Destin. Over time, Destin has been kind of a black eye of overdeveloped and maybe a little bit more tourist centric. And so I came in with this idea of, if we build our base and we allow the locals to be heard, loved, and understood, then from there, we can then build back the community that people had felt had been disenfranchised over the years. So I jumped in, lost my election to Councilman Jim Bagby. He's still a great dude, and I like him a lot, very fiduciary. But then a council member ended up leaving. I was able to take that seat as a redshirt freshman year, aka she had less than 1 year, so I got to jump in for a year, appointed, and fell in love with it. Did all the research, all the knowledge, all the expos I could go to, and just fell in love with local government, because at the end of the day, the government closest to you should be the government that has the most power, not over you, but power over where your community goes.
All right. So speaking of the tourist part of it with Destin,
Yeah.
I've never thought of it, but I'm sure Destin locals and the people from Destin originally did feel like they had lost some of their voice.
Yeah,
over
and that's
the years.
our biggest thing that we heard
Yeah.
on the campaign trail.
Okay.
Me and Becca door knocked nearly every house in Destin. I kind of always appreciate this old school, new school approach just to relationships in general. And that would be every faculty of the education system, whether you are a lunch lady or the principal, got a handwritten card from us. I kind of call it grandmother values.
Yeah.
So you take, my grandma was a realtor for 40 plus years in the past, way back in the day. And she's big on handwritten cards, handwritten thank you cards, but also the door knocking. So to go face to face and meet people where they were, to ask them what we could do for them, not what they could do for us or what I needed from them. So you got those 2 old school values. You couple that with online, just targeted media videos where I could hyper target or geofence, basically, take a neighborhood, draw a circle or a square around it, and regurgitate not what they told me back to them, but hey, we door knocked your house last week. Did you know that all your neighbors boiled the issues down to these 3 things? And with these 3 things, I'm a band nerd and I'm a kind of bookworm. And so I have found this may not be the real answer, but hey, you told me these 3 things. I've done research, and by state statute and by city ordinances, aka government rules, this is what I think is our path forward to solve the questions that you gave me or the issues that you gave me.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it really turns into, yes, listening, yes, old school values, but then how do you proactively take those values with the current laws that are in place to actually deliver solutions? And that's kind of the approach we took.
And nothing against the former mayors or anything like that, but for once, a lot of these people were seeing somebody cared. They
Yes.
were listening and
Yeah.
then trying to implement
Their issues.
solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just my thoughts, but their
Right.
answers, their worries, their concerns, their aggressions in some cases, depending on their temperament. But that was always the thing that Becca had to continue. Becca being my wife now, but fiance at the time.
And you still married him.
Yeah. And so we always came up with this mantra of people just want to be loved, heard, and understood. And that really comes from whether I am a crazy online, commenting to everyone that comments online. I post regularly, so get people's opinions and thoughts in. But the reality is, some people come at me heated, some people come at me very passionately, and instead of matching that energy, I always take a breath and go, all right, if people are just wanting to be loved, heard, and understood, their anger or their passion perhaps is probably coming from just wanting to be heard.
Right.
So if I can de-escalate the emotions, draw out the issue, and provide a solution, then I've done my job. My job isn't to match their energy. My job is to listen to them, and to the best of my ability, per what the state is allowing me to do and per what the city allows me to do within my title, to provide at least a solution. You might not like the solution. The solution might be it's not in the government purview, in my opinion, to do it. I'm kind of a closet libertarian. I'm a no party affiliate. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I am a purple local grassroots movement, just a person who's trying to do good for their community. And by doing that, the party is irrelevant to me because it's all about the people and the
And that's
policies.
probably why you appeal to so many people.
And that's what I'm hoping to build. If I go up or if I go out, I don't need to be in the seat, but I believe that the emotion and the residents that I've heard through even Destin and even through Walton 30A with the beaches. While I'm not the mayor of South Walton, I think I've been called that several times now on accident, and I correct them. But at the same time, I work in Walton County. I live in Okaloosa County. At the end of the day, if you really take, again, me as a libertarian, take the government lines out of it. Take Destin, Miramar, 30A, take the government lines out. We are all on the same sandbar. We have the same quartz crystal sand. We are in the same bay, Choctawhatchee Bay, and the same Gulf on the front end. We are geographically the same community. Government has just drawn lines in between us, and then, people and their minds got involved. But the reality is we're all one big community, and I'm here to serve everyone with or without being in the city limits. Of course, my ties and my voting body keep me in Destin, but if I can help someone in Santa Rosa, in Defuniak, over in Holmes County, I'm here to help the Panhandle of Florida, the sandbar of Destin 30A, and anyone who wants to be a part of local government, because that's really where the buck stops.
So whether they're young or old, somebody wanted to get involved in government.
Yeah.
What's their best first step?
Yeah, I would say, as much as I want to get rid of committees because it's just bureaucracy, in my opinion. I'm a big Doge guy, but Doge with a plan, not Doge with an axe, or Doge with a scalpel.
Right.
I would say get involved with your chambers, get involved with your nonprofits, your churches. Basically, come from what you're passionate with. Government doesn't need to be the answer to everything. And actually, this year, my slogan, if you will, is the year of the local. Because I guess the Chinese New Year's coming up, and they're changing from the snake to the horse or whatever. So they got me in the idea of like, all right, for me, it's going to be the year of the local. And to the RFK reference, it's not about what government can do for you. It's about what you can do for your community. Take out the word government and come with the standpoint of, if you want more government, do less in your community, because government is what happens when people don't want to show up. Mm-hmm. Government is the idea of, I don't want to take care of the medians. I would rather pay taxes and let someone else do that, which in some cases is fine.
It's good if that tax goes to that.
Correct. Yeah. And I want to be very clear that a general fund is no fun when it comes to, that is the bureaucracy slush fund of government. Yeah. If we could tie everything from a problem to a solution with this X percentage of tax dollars, that's how it should really be ran. Is this amount goes here and it solves these issues. This amount goes here. When we generalize government is when we get angry at government, and I can totally sympathize with that idea. But the idea of Doge, and what I think people love the idea of cutting property taxes and really cutting government, is they felt like there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. And the farther away from government you are, aka your city, I kind of go city, county, state, and then federal government are, in my opinions, the four brothers, if you will. The furthest away government can tell the younger governments, the brothers, what they can do, and they can't fight back. The state can tell the county can tell the city. So us as the youngest brother, we are just kind of stuck with what the older brothers or the older siblings tell us what we can and can't do within that little purview. But the reality is, I believe it should be flipped. If you believe in Doge, if you believe in lowering taxes and creating more effective government, the most effective government is the closest one to your front door. Because guess what? If we do something wrong, you can show up to our meetings, you know where we live, and you're within a couple miles of City Hall. The further government is, the lack of power an individual has. I've seen 5 people show up to city council and flip votes for probably the best. 5 people at the city of Destin go to Tallahassee, you're lost. You're lost in the weeds of the noise in the world of lobbyists. And so I am all for these ideas that the governor's throwing out. I'm all for the ideas that Elon and Trump have thrown out in terms of Doge. But I think we've gotten because it came from them, we think the solution is them being state and federal. I'm very much a grassroots campaign, but also grassroots government. And I believe if we really want to solve government's issues and what we all feel are those aesthetic, really just these things that we keep seeing over and over again, it comes to you need to give the power back to the local government, because the local government are local people trying to do the best for their community. And there's 411 cities in the state of Florida, 67 counties. The state year over year keeps trying to bucket us all into one category, whether it's called home rule or whatever. Long story short, what that means is the state passes a law, and that means Destin, Miami, and the Keys now all have to follow that same law, even though we're all 411 cities that are completely different, wanting to be different cultures, different priorities, different aesthetics, different demographics. And so year over year, the state keeps chopping away at our what we call home rule, or letting locals decide. And in doing so, the lobbyists win. The people at the top who are trying to cut out the locals because we have hard rules on what we want for development, what we don't want for development. A lot of the times now, 38 Destin, you guys can really empathize with this. Why the hell do we keep getting car washes, keep getting storage units, keep getting all these things, keep getting everything just crossed? Even what Becca would say is they just keep destroying the land. I was going to use a bad word there. They keep destroying the land. Why the heck, as you local officials, aren't doing anything? The reality is the state has handcuffed us. Yet they get so passionate about Republican this and Democrat that. And then the reality is, within all the noise of look over here, the lobbyists are winning and cutting our ability to say what our land development code, aka what the buck stops. This parcel is this zone is this, and this. That's the land development code. And so I know I got on a tangent of all this, but I would say, to bring it back to your question, I'll get off my tangent.
You're good.
The tangent being is we got to quit with this partisan red and blue Democrat Republican and get back to local versus lobbyist. And that's where the buck really needs to be at. That's where the news needs to be. But they will throw millions of dollars to distract us at every other decision other than the ones that affect the developers' wallets. And they go to Tallahassee and lobby against us to make sure that our land development code is so weak that we're all living in vanilla Florida, which means we have no say. The locals have no say what gets built, what gets preserved, and really what anything looks like. I'll get back to your question now, because that's my tangent on local government. What can someone do about this? This all sounds great. I'm kind of riffing here, and everything really sounds, yes, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing just not any planned thought of any development. We're not seeing anything. What can a local person do? It starts at the grassroots movement. Get involved in any way. Whatever you're passionate about, whether it's sea turtles. I was a diver, so we started a dive club that went underwater and picked up trash. With Trees on the Coast, we started planting trees. It just so happens that I found my way into government to try to make a bigger impact. But the reality is, in your local county or city, there are 5 or 7 people that make a vote. Go and befriend them. Go and share with them individually your issues, and don't just bring problems, but bring solutions to those problems, because we're all busy. Most people aren't taking a paycheck. This is a zero paying position that I'm in. So I need someone to come to me with an issue, and also, hey, I've talked to some people in this business, and we think maybe this or this could be a way to remedy it, or at least mitigate the issue.
Right.
And so you don't have to be in government to affect local government, and that's going to be my big stick. Get involved in the ways that you're passionate with, because no one's getting paid for this. And then see out those 5 or 7 council members, because you only need 3 if there's 5 of them. You only need 4 if there's 7 of them. And that's really the numbers that excite me about local government. You talk about state, that's hundreds of representatives, 100 senators, and you need a majority in both, and they need to pass several committees. It's ridiculous. So local is where it's at, and local is where you as an individual don't even need to be inside to make an effect on the outside.
And I think a lot of people have lost interest because they see the national, like what you have to go through to get things done, and gets lost in committee sometime.
Yeah.
And they feel like there's no point in me doing anything.
Yeah.
But you're saying on a local level,
yeah,
it can happen.
And I would say, though, because the state created a blanket law, we need more people to have that ideology of perhaps us giving too much power to the state has handcuffed us local voices. And in doing so, the parties have won, the politicians have won. And at the end of the day, I'm a politician too. But what really has won is the partisan and the lobbyist. They have fractured the locals, they have disenfranchised the ability to speak up, not for an issue, but for a solution. And people just go on with their day because, listen, you got kids going to soccer practice, you got a job to go to, you
Right.
got your soccer, you got your cross country, you got all these things in life, and now I'm asking them to add one more thing to their
Right.
world. The
But it's
reality
the
is just
most,
one thing.
yeah, but it's an important thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm seeing a shift where we have gone, the pendulum shifts one way and the pendulum shifts the other way. I think we've seen woke go crazy. I think we've gone MAGA gone crazy. And now I
Getting
truly
back to the middle.
believe that if we're ever going to get a third leg of a stool, if you have Republicans and you got Democrats, I think a true independent or nonpartisan party, if any time, is now is the time to show up as a middle moderate politician, if you will. And whether that's me or me building a coalition around me, I don't need to be in the seat. I never wanted to be a mayor or a politician. I just wanted to do good for my community. And so I want that to resonate with people. And with this idea of you do not need to vote down the ticket line because your local Republican Party or Democratic Party said this. The reality is, if that happens, our democracy is for none. We have waged wars, we have waged civil wars for no reason. If we are going to sheeple people down this idea of, oh, I'm red, so it's red or nothing. I'm blue,
Right.
so
And
it's
we
blue
see
or
that so
nothing.
much today. Yeah.
That is so disingenuous to anyone who's ever lost a limb or their life to the democracy and the Constitution of America. For you to not take an hour out of your life every 2 or 4 years to at least figure out what the judicial judges have voted on, what your House reps and senators have voted on, your local county and councilmen have voted on. If you can't take an hour out of your life to do the bare minimum of our civic duties, then it sounds crazy to say they shouldn't vote, but you shouldn't be able to have a privilege of this ideology of feeling good about yourself. I'm not saying you can't vote. Everyone has the power to vote unless you're a felon. But the idea of you shouldn't be proud of your vote by
Yeah, but
just going in there and slashing it. Now, if it just so happens that everyone completely lines up one way, then that's a different story. But to
Right,
go
because
in
you
there
voted.
uneducated
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
you're doing a disservice to everyone because you're allowing the lobbyists to win. Because who's pouring the most money into Pack 1 or Pack 2 of R or D are the lobbyists of developers, lobbyists of lawyers, lobbyists of special interest attorneys that go against claims for accidents of cars and trucks. You have all these people who are spending 1%, millions of dollars in PAC money, in lobbyist money, because they know there's hundreds of millions of dollars to be made in profit if
Sure.
one legislative bill goes their way.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they don't comprehend the magnitude of what's
Yeah,
going on.
I never did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was supposed to be a band director. So you roll this all the way back. I was supposed to be a high school band director who turned local video production company, which got me involved in the community, which got me involved in the nonprofit, which got me in the doors of City Hall. I never went inside a City Hall
Yeah.
until the board directed me to go in and get the approval to plant some trees. And then my awareness came out. And then my awareness of how all this works and who impacts who and where.
And so if you had not done that, followed up on the awareness once you
Yeah.
had it, you'd be
I would probably be someone who's, I would hope, barely going and doing the bare minimum groundwork of education before I went in to vote. But even then, I wouldn't have realized the magnitude of what a vote means, the magnitude of one can make a difference. And more importantly, this ideology of at your local level, you need 3 or 4 people and things change. at the state or federal level, you're asking for hundreds of people to vote for you who have no idea what street name you're from, let alone the city that you're from.
Right.
At the Capitol Hill, at federal DC, they know that you're from Florida. At Tallahassee, they know that you're from Okaloosa County. At Okaloosa County, they know what city you're from.
Right.
And from what city you're from, they know what street you're on.
Sure,
And
yeah.
that's the mindset that I think people don't realize of where their impact, yes, their vote matters, but their impact is multiplied the closer that government is to them. So start there and start getting some wins under your belt and start feeling like you can actually do something, because a coalition isn't one person screaming Karen or Kyle at us or at Facebook comments.
Right.
It's about really coming together and trying to find commonalities to move what's best for the most people forward.
All right. One last question. real
Please.
quick. Anything past the mayor?
I would say perhaps.
Okay.
And perhaps
good.
means I honestly mean this. I could care less if I'm in the seat. It doesn't matter that I'm in the seat. It matters that what I've been ranting at for all of you, that energy and that ideology needs to be in the seat. And so for me, I'm a local government politician with a video production company. For me, I think it's my obligation to become a campaign manager and get more moderates involved, whether that's at the city or county, and then let that ripple up. And so if I need to go up to bring more people up with me, so be it. If I need to be a campaign manager to multiply me into different facets of city, county, and state, then let it rip.
All right. Good deal.
Yeah.
I like all that. That's good.
Cool.
I like that attitude and the mindset for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So
Thanks for
we're
having
going to
me.
put your email, and that way if people want to contact you, send positive comments, people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say
Right.
this sympathetically, if you have any questions, if I don't care where you live, I don't care if you're not even in Florida, email that address above me here, and I will at least point you in the right direction. If I can't help you personally inside the city limits of Destin, I can at least get you the information that you need and at least get you the guardrail so that you can start being effective in your local community. That is my biggest passion. It is not about
great.
government lines. It's about people feeling equipped and empowered to start giving back to their community and start getting involved in their local government so that change can actually start the way it needs to. And that is a grassroots movement that multiplies from the inside outward.
All right. Good deal.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you
you
guys
so much. I appreciate
Yeah,
you being
appreciate it.
here. It was
Yeah.
great. And that concludes our episode of Luxe Life Discovered. We will see you soon.